Hey, this is Dr. Amy Breeze Harper of the Sistah Vegan Project, and look at my lovely hair. Big, poofy, beautiful, soft afro, which will fall out approximately 2 months after I give birth in about a week. This is going to be kind of funny, this video blog piece. So, how many of you guys are primary caretakers of kids under the age of 4? I mean, do you love your kids? You love your kids, or if they're not your kids, your grandkids, or your nieces and nephews, whomever you're taking care of, who's part of your family. But gosh, they can drive you nuts, can't they? Right? So I love my kids; they're awesome. And as a parent of these little ones, two and a 4-year-old, I really appreciate what my parents did with my twin and I. Like, I didn't quite get that until I became a parent. And wow, I love how they really test my practice of mindfulness and compassion and patience. And, gosh, the curiosity they have in combination with their lack of understanding of risk and what causes pain and suffering. Whoa, so difficult. What I love when they do the same thing over and over again and they hurt themselves and they're surprised that I'll try this the 17th time and wow, I still fell and hurt myself. Or how many times have I told you, if it's steaming and hot, don't put it in your mouth. Just wait for it to cool down. Use your finger to see if it's hot instead of your tongue. 75 times later, let me use my tongue and then be surprised that I burned the crap out of it, But I also, I love the fact that children remind me of not necessarily their innocence, but the lack of indoctrination. And how they really can point out that the emperor is wearing no clothes, or they just see things how it really is for those who are, of course I shouldn't be using the ableist statement, but they understand things more of how they are, and they're able to point those things out and even make adults feel uncomfortable with the hypocrisies and contradictions that the children experience through our behaviors. The other night my husband read the book Vegan is Love by Ruby Roth, which is a book dedicated to teaching children about vegan ethics, and I like that. I like how my 4-year-old, when he does see, maybe, unfortunately, we went to a pumpkin patch celebration the other weekend for the fall, and they had a petting zoo, and there were horses attached to a tree, but Son said immediately, those horses look sad. Why? Because I tell him that no non-human animal wants to be tied to a tree and used for entertainment all the time. They're sad, they miss their family, it's just not fun. So he's already able to see that. So my husband read the book Vegan is Love, which I've read to them about 15 times now, but it's the first time my husband read it to the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old. And my husband's saying, reiterating these concepts, like a zoo is not something that is a fun place for a non-human animal to be in. And my kids, they're slowly learning and they're slowly understanding that. And when the book first came out, Ruby Roth got static from, speciesists who just don't understand that she's not trying to traumatize children. She's just offering that this is how you can teach your children about how systemic oppression and suffering is, I guess, reinforced and maintained, and that it's just a cruel habit to think it's okay to treat non-human animals this way. And I remember reading, I don't even know the link, but I remember reading like an expert psychiatrist or child development specialist saying that her book is traumatizing to kids. Yeah, it's traumatizing to show kids how they can prevent suffering and pain. It's just amazing. I just wonder if we can put this in a different region and time. If there, how do parents respond to those who are narrating to children how horrible the antebellum slavery was, right? and were people who benefited from institutionalized racism and slavery, were they saying to the rare parents who were trying to teach their kids that this was horrible? And I mean white people that are trying to teach their white kids that this is horrible. Were they saying, God, it's traumatizing to teach your kids how the black slave really lives? It's traumatizing. How is it traumatizing if you use kind words and mindfulness and, creative ways to approach it for a toddler or a preschooler's mind? How is it traumatizing to let them know? It's just the mere fact that that expert wrote a piece about Ruby Roth's book as being something very traumatizing and very problematic. It's just, to me, it makes me very, very, very sad. And, it's not just people who are proponents of speciesism, but there are a lot of people I meet where they don't want to start teaching their children about how racism affects the lives of the other. So like white parents who just don't want to engage with that. Or they think it will just make their kids more depressed. There's ways to talk about this without traumatizing your child, and children see it. I just read the book Combined Destinies, and it's about white people talking about their testimonies of growing up in a racist household. And largely those testimonies were from their memories of being children and knowing that their white supremacist families or parents, knowing what those family members were doing were wrong. They knew it. 3-4 years old, they knew. But because of the weird power dynamic of being a child and seeking your parents' approval, they had to pretend that they, agreed, or if they initially didn't agree and try to point out the hypocrisy of how their white family was treating non-white people, they were punished, they were reprimanded. And of course that confuses a child, it scares a child, right? So for this expert psychologist to have that response to Ruby Roth's book, saying Vegan is Love book is going to traumatize children, it's really sad and disappointing. But I am glad that at least my children are exposed to that, among many other things, since their mother is a critical race feminist and a black feminist theorist. Try to figure out the creative ways to just let them know at an early age in a mindful way how to think more critically about, how to handle those hypocrisies and contradictions that they see out the world. And as they get older, it's going to become more challenging and difficult. But I was raised similarly, not as a vegan, but my parents really telling me up front how things really work in terms of systems and structures, and not lying to me about many things. Other things I still didn't get because no parent is perfect, but my parents told me automatically there's no such thing as Santa Claus, and it really explained to me that the meaning of Christmas is not commercialism and capitalism, and that we're not going to participate. Now, at the time as a child, when everyone else is doing it, you get pissed off at your parents, you think they're kind of nutty, but that really stuck with me. And I really understood how my mom and dad just didn't want to buy into thinking the true meaning of showing love is through buying products that make a CEO more rich and that are very exploitative, So, and now I'm doing that with my children, trying to find that balance, not necessarily ruining life for them, but when son tells me, he's the 4.5-year-old, about Santa Claus, and I try to explain to him, well, Santa Claus is a myth, it's like a cartoon, it's not real. And this is where toys actually come from. There's no such thing as elves, and a lot of time there are people that are little kids that are also exploited to make a lot of these things. And I just try to say it in a way where he can understand where things really come from, but not also make him too depressed. And so far, it's working. And then ultimately, I try to let them know you can still make that decision on what you want to do as you get older. But you should still know how things really work, and then from there you can make those decisions. So, just wanted to share that with you, and I'm having fun raising the kids, of course, but sometimes they always have their moments, especially when they don't nap, right? And you try to tell them, you're kind of going crazy because you're tired, and maybe if you napped, you wouldn't be so crazy. You're like fighting with you, no, I don't want to sleep, I don't want to sleep. Then they eventually fall asleep for 2 hours, and they wake up and they're calm again. I'm like, see? Because you were sleep deprived. So, but I love them. They're awesome. So that's just what I want to share with people today. My due date is November 7th, I think. Well, depends who you talk to. My app says it's November 3rd. I have a pregnancy app. Sonogram says November 5th, and my midwife says November 10th. So I'll just say November 7th. But we'll see. And we're planning home birth. And I'm excited. and also not looking forward to those wonderful contractions. But, you know, the first birth was 18 hours, second was 6, and I'm hoping this one will be less than 4. And my body's ready, it's done it before, so bam. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So I'll keep y'all posted, and hopefully in the next few weeks when the new one arrives, I'll take a few pictures and post. And I'm hoping I can actually take some pictures of the labor process and maybe some video, because I think a lot of people are not, they don't know what it means to have a home birth or what birthing is all about. So hopefully, if the videoing goes right and the photography goes right, you'll get to see what some of that looks like. I think that's very important. I don't want to hide the process. There's so many people that have questions about it. I had questions as a child, but I didn't really understand it until I went into labor. And very different from what is seen on TV, especially since most of it happens in a hospital and things seem to be more sanitized than really are in real life. So wish us luck, and, you know, feel free to respond. Remember, I'll be giving birth soon, so if I don't respond to posts or private emails quickly, it's because I'm taking care of the newborn and I need to relax and be in bed for 14 days. I think it's either 7 to 14 days, depending on what midwife you talk to. Talk to you later.